So greetings wherever you may be joining us from, whether it's morning, evening, or afternoon. Today is an exciting day, and I'm very, very thrilled to be here on a Speaking podcast, a place where we kind of dive into the lives and experience of remarkable individuals who have achieved extraordinary feats and have incredible stories to share. I'm your host for today, Efaz, and today we are privileged to have an incredible, inspiring guest. She's not only a celebrated athlete who conquered the mighty Everest, but also wears many other hats. She's a diplomat, humanitarian delegate, consultant, researcher, teacher, writer, and a coach. She holds a Ph.D. in religious studies from the University of Quebec in Montreal and has a wealth of experience for her work within the International Committee of Red Cross in various countries. Her journey has taken her to French Ministry for Foreign Affairs, where she tackled critical issues like human rights, violent extremism, and religion. Furthermore, she is also an author of a compelling book, When a Goddess Dies, published by Oxford University Press in New York. And not to forget her remarkable ascent to the peak of Everest, despite not being a professional mountaineer, serves as a testament for her unwavering resilience and determination. So I'm not going to take too much time. Without further ado, please help me join in giving a warm and a hearty welcome to our esteemed guest today, none other than Orianne Aymard. Welcome, Orianne. Lovely to have you here on Speaking Podcast. I must say that I'm very, very excited. And I'm sure there is so much to learn from your journey. And let's talk about that today.
Yeah, thank you, Afas, for the invitation at SpeakIn, and I'm very pleased to be here. And thank you also for this nice introduction. It's not very easy to introduce me, so I think you did a very good description. So thank you for this.
Okay, lovely to know that. So let's begin, and let's probably talk about how it all started for you, Orianne. Your journey is truly remarkable and covers such a diverse range of experience, of little bit what I know, like
Yeah,
from
I'm very
climbing
curious.
to diplomatic missions and to academic pursuits. I mean, you've done it all, right? So my first question is, what was it that compelled you to, take on this journey of climbing Everest? How did it all started?
Yeah, so I will start at the beginning. The first time I saw Everest, I was only 23 years old, and I was actually in Tibet. I was supposed to go to Mount Kailash, the holy mountain, to do the pilgrimage, but because of heavy snow, the route was blocked. So in the end, I decided to trek to Everest Base Camp, and when I arrived there, I saw Chomolungma, Everest. So Chomolungma is the Tibetan name for Everest. So it means the mother goddess of the world. And in Nepalese, it's Sagarmatha. And when I saw Everest, it was the first time. I mean, for me, it was like a revelation. I told myself, well, this is it. I have to go on the top of this mountain one day. I mean, I have no choice, and I have to go there. And finally, 2 years later, I got brain hemorrhage while I was in India, in the north of India. And so I almost died. And this put an end to my dream. And so I actually got this brain hemorrhage near the tomb of this woman saint called Ananda Maima, which means the mother of joy. She's well, they call it in Hinduism an avatar. It's like an incarnation of the goddess. And I ended up at the hospital in Dehradun, at the military hospital. And then I say goodbye to my parents on the phone because I thought I would die. And in the end, I survived. I'm here today to talk about. And finally, after a surgery, I found myself in the office of the neurosurgeon in Paris. And then he told me, well, I'm sorry, Orianne, but you have to stop diving, which was a pity because initially I studied marine biology at the university. And he also told me you have to stop going to high altitude, so trekking, above 4,000, now it's forbidden. And finally, 15 years later, I found myself on the top of Lhotse, which is the fourth highest mountain in the world. So it was in 2019. So, and with in front of me, the mother goddess, so Chomolungma. And 4 years later, so this year, you know, so almost 20 years later after my brain hemorrhage, I climbed Everest. So yeah, so my story is, I would say, is a story of resilience. I think I can say it. And yeah, I never gave up, you know, and so I feel very happy that my dream, came true.
That's incredible to know. I'm getting goosebumps while you're talking about it. It's like, you dreamt it, and as they say that, once you set your mind towards something, your journey is half done. So I think that
Yeah.
happened to you. You kind of decided one day, and I one of my close friend have been to base camp, right?
Okay.
So ever since then, and it's about, I think, 7 8 years ago that he went to base camp, and I don't know what he's doing now, but
So I
I
guess
also,
from the Nepal side. Yeah.
from the Nepal
Okay.
side,
Yeah.
I also thought about, you know it sounded very cool to me that he's been to the base camp, right?
Uh-huh.
Till
You could
date,
go.
I know I can go, but I think till date it's about, I think it's more of a want, that's
Hmm.
something that I
Okay.
want. I still don't have a very compelling reason to pursue it, but hopefully looking, probably hearing your story, maybe I'll just decide someday to, start,
Who, who
kind of
knows next year? Yeah.
yeah, could be,
Let me
could be.
know if you go there. Let me know.
Yeah, so that's incredible, Oyana, your journey. I think the journey is truly inspiring, and I think it's very incredible. Now,
But it was not easy. I mean, I went through a long medical process, you know, with many, lots of MRIs, you know, but, you know, in the end, when you have a dream, and so everything is
yeah,
possible.
yeah. I think that's wonderful to know, because a lot of people kind of give up, in the process, because
Hmm.
I feel anything that you work for, if it's worthy, it takes time. It really tests you on multiple fronts, right? So probably that journey of yours could be the test for you. And what's inspiring is that you never really lost the sight of your goal, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
eventually it happened, right?
Mm.
So I want to know, while you were on a journey as into Everest, which is really inspiring.
Mm.
Could you share some of the unforgettable events or moments, that you gained, during this rewarding climb of yours?
Um, Well, that was a long expedition, so I have many things to to say, but it's a 2 months expedition. So, I mean, that was, physically speaking, it was a big challenge, as you can imagine, with the lack of oxygen, the extreme cold, and especially this year, it was really, really cold. And it was, but I think the challenge was more on the psychological level. But if I have to tell you, like I say, 2 or 3 key moments. Well, the first one is related to the icefall. Um, Actually, during the rotation, well, maybe I should explain what the rotation is, you know, because you don't climb immediately Everest, you know, and you don't go to the top immediately. Or Lhotse is the same, otherwise you would you would die, you know. So you need to go through an acclimatization process. So which is like you have to make round trips between the different upper camps in order to trigger the production of red blood cells to compensate for the lack of oxygen. So during the rotation, you know, was my first rotation. I was feeling very well, and I had touched Camp 3. So Camp 3 is it's 7,200. So I need to say that it was in Nepal. You know, I climbed Everest from Nepal and not from the Tibetan side. I mean, Tibet was closed this year, so it was not possible to go there. So I had touched Camp 3 and I was feeling very well. And on the way down, while I was going back to base camp, after Camp 1, so I was crossing the icefall, and more or less, I mean, in the middle of the icefall, or maybe the 2/3, I heard like a huge noise. And immediately understood what was happening. There were a big seracs. So the seracs are like huge blocks of ice. There were big seracs falling down and falling down right in my direction. So I realized that this very moment that that was probably the last time. I mean, the last seconds of my life. I mean, because I mean, your chance of surviving when you get hit by a serac is almost non-existent. So everything went so fast. I just had the time to bend myself, to put my hands on my head and make a very extremely short prayer. And in a few seconds, I got hit by a huge serac. And so after this, when I regained consciousness, my Sherpa was calling me, was looking for me. And when he found me, I was crying. I could not hear anything from the left side. I was bleeding. Well, this I didn't know, but I realized after all, my face was completely bleeding. And so my Sherpa saw that I was alive first, and I was still conscious. So he told me immediately, okay, get up, don't stay here because there are other seracs that can fall down. So I had no time, to really, to realize what was happening. I was just realizing that I was alive. So that was the first thing I say, I'm alive now. Okay, I want to leave. So I need to go away. And so I stood up and I started walking. So I had to cross the rest of the ice fall. So I was walking like a drunk person, and so yeah, and I reached the base camp. Then I got evacuated. And I ended up at the hospital in Kathmandu, where they took very good care of me. And after a few days there, I asked the doctors, about what I should do. And because I was feeling better, I decided to come back to Everest Base Camp to continue. But that was not an easy decision to make. I mean, we can talk about this later, but it was not so easy. But I realized, that my dream was stronger than the fear of death. It was stronger than the trauma. But again, so I decided to continue and come back to Everest Base Camp to continue the climb. But yeah, it was very difficult because I had to cross the ice fall again. So with the trauma, that was not very easy. So I feel so that's the first key event, I would say, a major event, as you can imagine. And today I feel very grateful to be alive, I mean, because when you go through this kind of accident. And I knew the icefall because I knew the Kumbu icefall because I had crossed it in the past, when I climbed Lhotse, and I knew that it was very dangerous. But you always think that nothing will happen to you, you're trying to be positive. And but it happened. And so what can you do? I mean, that's life. So that was, that's the first key event. And the second one, well, I'm sure you probably guessed, it was on the top of Everest. And so I reached the top of Everest. It was on the 19th of May. So it was 6:30 in the morning. And that was actually a mixed feeling. On one hand, I felt really very happy, like full of joy, like a very intense joy. And but on the other hand, I also you feel also very vulnerable up there. So you don't feel very comfortable because that's not really a place to stay. I mean, you are above 8,000, you are in the death zone. So you have three times less oxygen than normal. And it was super cold. It was like minus 40, and some people say it was minus 50. I mean, I don't really know, but it was really, really cold. And you still have to go down because I mean, it's not finished. Okay, you reach the top of Everest, but I mean, majority of accident actually happen during the descent. So you just have one thing in mind. I mean, you're very happy again, but you have just only one thing in mind, is to go down as fast as you can. So no time to celebrate, no time to relax. You're just thinking of going down. But I mean, but still, it was a magical moment. And overall, I mean, I feel really full of gratitude, for having reached the top of Everest, because, I mean, that was my ultimate dream. Even when I reached the top of Lhotse 4 years ago, I mean, I was getting closer from Everest, but my ultimate goal was Everest. So, yeah, I feel very grateful, and I realized that I could have died. And I'm here. I reached my dream. So I would say, like, nothing really predestined me to climb such mountain. I mean, like Lhotse or Everest. First, because of my brain hemorrhage in the past. Second, because it was a succession of crises for Lhotse, for example, but also for Everest, as you can see, the accident in the icefall, the frostbite, because I got frostbite, not only me, also many Sherpas, many people, because of the extreme cold. I also broke my left foot on the way down, at the yellow band, it's like 7,700 more or less. So, and I had to go down, even with the fracture, because I got a fracture on the left foot. So, I mean, that was a succession of crises. So, so nothing really, predestined me. And as you say at the beginning, I was not I'm not a professional mountaineer, in the sense that when I started climbing just with Lhotse, well, I had climbed Mont Blanc, before, and another mountain in Nepal called Imlung, but that was more or less the only mountain I had climbed. So, again, it was a big challenge. So what I want to say is, I mean, if I have one message, and it would be like that, all is possible, and you can always, I mean, despite hardships, you can always bounce back. You can always transform difficulties into strength. So yeah, I feel very grateful to be here, and I accomplished my dream. So yeah.
Wow. I'm sure one hell of a journey, you must say.
Yeah, exactly.
So while probably it might have been a crisis situation then, but today probably I think when you look back, you kind of realize that it was quite a journey probably.
Yeah, it was a
And
big journey. Yeah.
I've not really met people who have climbed Everest. You're the first one I'm meeting, but I've heard people on interviews or probably on movies. People say that it's life changing. You go when you are in your country, you are a different person. When you reach the base camp, you're totally changed. And when you reach the Everest, there's a different side of yours, that you experience, which probably you don't.
Yeah, and for me, it was not the first time I faced death. I know, with my brain hemorrhage, and also in other circumstances, for the big cross, the Red Cross, so in my work. But there is something happening in your brain. It's like you tend to erase, the trauma, and you live with this kind, I would say, this kind of unconsciousness, or I don't know, blindness, thinking that death will never touch you, that death doesn't exist. And so for me, it was also a good reminder of the impermanence of life, and so we have to live the instant moment also. So yeah, that was a good reminder.
Suddenly, a lot of gratitude for everything, probably. Yeah, for
Yeah,
life.
exactly. For life. Yeah.
I think that's one thing that we all take very granted till we face that near death experience, only then you kind of realize. So it was not a near death experience, but I did a small trip here in India. I did a bike trip from New Delhi to Ladakh, right?
Oh, nice. Very
Yeah.
nice.
So there also it's an altitude
Yeah, it's quite high. It's like
quite
above
high.
5,000. Yeah.
And the problem was, or the mistake rather I did was I didn't acclimatize much. I thought it's fine. I'm the young guy, as in what's gonna happen, with me, and I just went all ahead without ignoring the advice of other people who regular ride. And it was the first ever trip. I never before that I never really made any such attempt, and quite an impulsive decision probably. I just bought a bike. I thought, let me just go there and call myself a biker. But I remember day third, when I was there, and I got really really sick. And that night, I was in this place called Serchu, which was near Leh. And I was thinking that
Mhm.
is it, tonight is the night. I don't think so I'm gonna uh, I'm gonna get to see the morning. And because my head was really really uh,
Oh,
swelled.
like a
And
beginning of
yeah,
edema, maybe, or something. Yeah, altitude sickness. Yeah.
yeah, but it was not that bad. I think it was all in my mind. Next day, I reached there and I think I was fine by then. But yes, I did realize, had a lot of realization back then for myself, and um, lot of gratitude, for life. And
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
for being here and still alive.
correct, correct. So great, great to hear, Oyana. I think your journey to climb Everest is undoubtedly the highlight. But I think that's just one chapter of your incredible journey. So I want to know, how does this accomplishment of yours, play into the broader
Hmm.
narrative of your personal and professional journey later?
Hmm. Well, as you know, I had already climbed mountains like Lhotse, like a big mountain too. I went through lots of, several crisis situation at work in the past, with the ICRC, the International Committee of the Red Cross, with the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs, also because I used to work for the crisis center, also with the the terrorist attacks in Paris, and when I was working on religious issues. So I've been through many situations, and now, I mean, if I look back after Everest, I think it's not really like that I learned something new. I think it's nothing new actually, but it's just that my trip, my journey to Everest just reinforced in a way what I already knew. And like what I told you before when I say like, that all is possible. I think really everything is possible. So, and I just keep thinking that you can always overcome obstacle, So I mean, that's what I think. So it's nothing new after this journey of Everest. It's just like a reminder of what I knew before. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
So I think all ingredients was there already. You
yeah,
just realized.
exactly. Yeah, the ingredients exactly.
Lovely, lovely to hear that. All right. So while you spoke about, your journey, the kind of incidents that you faced,
Uh-huh.
right, reaching to the highest peak and kind of have a lot of realization. What are the three lessons that you would kind of? I know you've probably mentioned it in some way or the other, but if you have to
Mm-hmm.
mention it again, what are the three life learning lessons that you can let our listeners know, from your journey? Three quick one.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, the first one, which is for me the most important one, I would say, is I mean, it's very simple. It looks very simple, but it's not so easy. It's just being yourself. And so, what does it mean, being yourself? I mean, concretely, I mean, for me, it means being faithful to who you are, to your values, to what you believe in, to your dream, and refuse to be defined by others, and even if it means being criticized and misjudged. And when I was at the hospital after the evacuation, after the accident in the icefall, I mean, I could have quit the expedition, I could have renounced, but I decided to go on. And nobody can tell you what to do. So, I mean, you have to believe in yourself. So I just decided to go, and many people would have quit. And that's why I didn't tell anyone at the beginning that I would go back, because I didn't want to get influenced, by others. But yeah, just believe in yourself. So that's really like the first key lesson. And the second one, which is very much connected to the first one, is I think I would say is listening to your intuition. I think it's very important to trust your intuition. And again, you know, at the hospital, I could have quit. I didn't. And what I want to say is that there is no wrong or there is no good and bad decision. I mean, there is your decision, and that's the most important one. So it's very important also to trust your intuition. And the third key lesson will be, I think, is related to vulnerability. I think it's important. Well, I mentioned the top of Everest, you know, where you feel very extremely vulnerable up there. And I think it's important to accept this vulnerability and accept the fact also that you cannot always control everything. And I think that the more you accept this vulnerability, the more you are able to overcome obstacle and to face adversity. I mean, that's my that's my point of view. And also, when you accept your vulnerability, I think it also generates around you trust and empathy. Also, yeah, that's what I would say. And so, and in relation to this, also, again, everything is connected. You know. Is I mean, accepting your vulnerability. It's also accepting your own limits. So I think it's very important to recognize your own limits and to accept them. And again, the more you accept your limits, the more you are able to overcome difficulties. And I think in my case, it is by accepting my own limits, by accepting the fact that I'm not perfect, that I was actually able to go to the top of Lhotse and Everest. So I think it's yeah. I mean, for me, that's the key lesson. There are more, of course, but
I'm sure.
you
I'm sure.
know. I
Lovely.
told you I would stop. I would try not to talk too much, but
That's absolutely fine. So,
yeah.
while you were talking about, you know, your journey, and specifically that incident that you mentioned, that where you met, there was a crisis where you were hurt, you know, while making an
Mhm.
ascent. Um, what motivated you further? Didn't you, as in, didn't this thought cross your mind that I think it's a sign I should not go up? You know, things are happening. Maybe God is trying to kind of stop me. You know, what still kept.
Yeah, I thought about this, you know. I thought, of course, you have many questions in your mind. You keep thinking at the hospital, I was trying to stop my mind. I say, stop, you know, don't try to interpret this. And again, you just focus on your heart and you say, okay, what is my heart telling me, you know? And of course, and as I said, I didn't tell anyone I was going back, you know. I mean, I didn't tell anyone about my accident. Even my parents, they didn't know about my accident, just the insurance and my friend in France, but nobody knew, you know, because I didn't want to get influenced. And I think it's important also sometimes, because I could have interpreted this as a sign of the goddess, as you say, you know, it's dangerous, I should not go back and all this. But, you know, at one point I just say, no, stop, Orianne, just focus on your heart. What do you really want? What do you really want? I mean, this is a very simple question. And I mean, and then I was able to go on and to make the real decision. But you need to listen to yourself, you know.
Hmm.
And many, I mean, that's why I didn't tell anyone, because they would probably even when I came back to France after this trip, some people told me, wow, you kept going. I mean, I would have quit the expedition. Why did you go back, you know, and all these questions. So, but again, nobody can tell you what to do, and you have to, yeah. But in my mind, I try not to interpret all this. Yeah, it's difficult also.
I think you have a very important message. Just trust your intuitions and keep listening to your heart. You know,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
I
Yeah,
think
totally.
I think similar thing happened with me when I was in this trip. Nobody knew about that trip except
Okay.
nobody in my family. Not because I'll get. I knew that they will stop me, right? So my
Yeah.
family is very protective, and they would have said, "Ki, what's
But you're right, I mean, you're perfect. I mean, for Everest, it was different. But for Lhotse, I didn't tell anyone except my parents that I was going to climb Lhotse 4 years ago, because I knew that everyone would tell me, "But you're crazy. What are you doing? I mean, you're not even a mountaineer. Well, you're crazy, Orianne." And I think it's the same in life. You always have, like, when you start a new business, when you start something new, you always have people to predict the worst. You always have people to criticize you, you always have detractors. So it's very important to follow your intuition, and just to always question the motivation of people around you to give you advice. So I think it's important. So it's better sometimes not to say anything, as you did.
That's a gem of an advice, and I think a lot of people, in fact, everyone who's listening to this talk of yours can relate to that. So lovely to hear that. So one last question, and this is
Okay.
which I just thought about it. So Oyana, Mount Everest is done, and there are many other things that you've accomplished on in your life. What next for you? What
What's next?
is the next big thing that you're chasing?
uh You know, to be honest, now I'm trying to just to recover, like physically speaking. When I came back, I had a fracture. I had the accident on my face, and so now I'm not thinking of what's next, because I'm trying first. And I had frostbite, so the doctors told me, "Oh, you should be careful with the cold now." So of course, I have some projects, but now I'm trying not to think too much of them. But the idea, I'm very much interested in accomplishing we call it the Grand Explorer Grand Slam. It's the reaching the seventh summit, and the south and north poles by ski. And so I already climbed like 2 of the 7 summits. So Aconcagua, which is the highest peak in the Americas, and I climb Everest now. So there are still 5 more summits to climb. And I also would like to reach the south and north poles, but now again, I'm trying to rest. And the other thing, like in the shorter term, there is this documentary film that will come out at the end of the year, with TV Mont Blanc. That's a French TV, but the documentary will be also in English. And we actually interview some great mountaineers like Nims Pooja, and Kamrita Sherpa, and others. So I think it will be a great documentary. It's about my ascent of Everest, but also about resilience. So I think it will be very interesting. And I'm not, I don't think I will write another book, because I already wrote a book about my ascent of Lhotse. It's in French. It's published by Edition, like Mont Blanc Edition, publisher. And I have the English manuscript, but I'm still looking for an English publisher in case, someone listening is interested. But I would like to keep writing, but maybe later, but not now.
Lovely. So I
So
wish
that's the
you
project, the plans,
I look forward to the documentary of yours. Whenever that'll come, I'll look forward to that.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
I wish you all the great luck for the next 5 expedition that you're eyeing at, probably.
Thank you, Afaz. Not this year, definitely no.
Yeah. So I think it's right now you're kind of so either you're repairing or preparing. That's what I know. So
Yeah,
right now probably you're repairing yourself as well as preparing.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But I'm very happy, because I thought that it would probably that they would cut one of my fingers, and finally I recovered everything. And so, and again, I mean, my face is okay now, but yeah, I was very lucky. So again, I feel very grateful for all this. Yeah,
Okay,
I
lovely.
still.
So thank you so much, Orianne.
Thank you, Afaz. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks
And
for your
of course, I'm available for conferences all over the world, in Asia, in India, everywhere.
absolutely, absolutely. So once again, thank you so much for sharing your insights.
Thank you, Afaz.
It gives a lot of value to me in person as well as I think all the people who are going to listen to this. So thank you so much everyone for joining for this inspiring episode with Speaking Podcast. Remember uh, that no matter how the challenges that you face, if you have the right mindset and determination, you can conquer the Everest in your life. So thank you so much everyone. Au revoir, Orianne.
Au revoir. Thank you, Afaz. Thank you. Au revoir.